Hi everybody, welcome to On the Hunt with Alpen. I'm Kent Martz, along with co-host Rick White. Rick, how you doing today?
I'm doing just fine.
That's the same here. It's a good day to be alive. I'm also with co-host Mark Strachey. Mark, how you doing?
Kent, I'm well.
Doing awesome. It's great to be here Wednesday night talking about hunting.
Always, third one in a row.
Third one in a row, and I think this may be episode number one. We'll just call the first two pilots number 1 and 2. And this may turn into a pilot 2. We'll see. And
There it goes again.
so, Mark, why don't you tell us what we're going to be talking about today?
Sure, Kent. Let me walk everybody through who we're going to be talking to and some of the topics we're going to cover today. You may remember, those of you that watched last week, we were checking in with Rick on deer hunting in Indiana, and we want to get the final update. See what happened or what didn't happen. We don't know yet and haven't talked to Rick about it, but he'll take a few minutes to bring us up to speed on that and kind of tell us where he's heading next. We've got Joe Falcon on the show. Really looking forward to speaking with him this evening, talking about some duck hunting and duck hunting youth ministry that he's got going on. He's really doing some great stuff, and I'm not going to talk about it too much. I'll let Joe and Kent cover that with you. Finally, we're going to check into Elizabethtown, Kentucky with Mike McDonald, one of our pro staffers. And Mike is getting ready for some more duck and goose hunting out in Kentucky, and he's on a far east part of the Mississippi Flyway out there, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what they do out there, some of the things that maybe they do differently than the rest of us are accustomed to. But that's what we're covering this evening. So back to you, Kent.
And then there's something else coming up towards the end of the show, isn't there?
Always forget about that. The Alpen Special.
The Alpen Special, that's right.
It's not an On the Hunt show without an Alpen Special, and we've got a good one for you tonight.
All right, so Joe, are you there?
Hey, Ken, I can hear you. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Good to talk to you. Haven't talked to you in a while. Joe Falcon I've known for, I don't know, 20 years, and known of him for a lot longer. In fact, there's a fun story. When my mom met Joe, I don't remember this or not, but I thought she was going to giggle and pass out. Joe is a former Olympian and retired police officer, and I always joked he was probably the fastest policeman on earth. And I don't know if Joe likes to refer to him that or not, but Joe has been a duck hunting for a long time, and he launched a ministry. Joe, tell us about what you do with your duck hunting and how you go about what you do.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Kent. Years ago, as you know, my boys, Christian and Dakota and I, we love duck hunting and getting out with friends. And what we discovered was there's so many kids out there and dads that may not have all the gear, and they may not have the equipment, and they may not have the ability to go out and get out in the creation and enjoy it. So we began initially just taking one family at a time and enjoying that piece. And about 8 years ago, we got blessed, and there was a great dairy farmer out in the Centerton community that had a really nice 2-acre pond that we approached with the option of saying, could we bring families out here? Because Mike might talk about it here in a little bit in Kentucky, but if you load up and you go to the Arkansas River, you go down to Stuttgart and you spend the whole weekend, that's a commitment. And for folks that are just trying to get into hunting, that can be a difficult piece. But a nice farm pond where the ducks work really close and you can bring them in awful tight for young kids to have an opportunity to harvest some was a blessing. And then more so for us, it was the ability to sit down and really serve those families. So to do a gun safety with them, to bring them out to the blind, to teach them how to call some ducks, to when they worked right, help them with their shooting, and then afterwards be able to show them how to process the ducks and then provide a meal with them if they needed be. And then coupled within that was my sons and I having an opportunity just to talk to them about the Lord and how blessed we've been to be out in his creation.
So Joe, how many kids have you taken duck hunting over the past 8 years out there?
We've had a little over 120 families that we've taken. So if you take that and multiply it out by the kids, we probably had in excess of about 300 folks that we've had the privilege to share a duck blind with, and some great memories and stories. And then ultimately, there have been those that have come to know the Lord as a result of being out in a duck blind, and we're grateful and humbled by that.
So I know you were at one point had been counting how many ducks you had taken out of that blind. Do you still have a count?
We did through the end of last year. The kids had harvested just a little over 500 ducks in the last 6 seasons. This year, as America has dealt with COVID, we had to make the hard decision, and the decision was we weren't going to take families out due to social distancing. And that's been a challenge, but we know that God's timing is good, and that next year we'll have the opportunity to begin getting additional families back out there. But it's just been a real joy to watch the faces of those kids, and more so the parents themselves, and many a times the grandparents that are sitting out there with their children, to be able to have a conversation. Because as you all know, one of the things I ask is don't bring your cell phone out and sit in the duck blind. I wanted a time where the kids and their dads and their granddads can have a conversation, and there's nothing like being in a duck blind and being able to have fun and enjoy that creation. And there's just nothing like hearing those wings whistling early in the morning before the lights come up or it's shooting time, and then being able to walk them through and talk to them about the different species of ducks and what that looks like.
And so most of these kids, they've never done any hunting before probably, and it's their first experience out in the woods potentially, or in this walking through the woods and then through a cow pasture. And, it's a working dairy farm, and so they also get to experience, the fun of stepping in a cow pie at 4 a.m.
Yeah, they have, Kent, and, more so it's that piece of the anticipation of, it's one thing to do a gun safety class with them, and it's another thing to get in the duck blind and have the guns in the shotgun rest. But when that first group of mallards or gadwall or teal start working, and you tell them to go ahead and grab the gun, and then when they're about to cut and you say, go ahead and take your safety off, and then, take them, it's the joy of watching those kids. And typically for the young ones, we just allow them to chamber one round at a time so that we don't have any kind of accidental discharges within the blind. But watching those shots go off and then them getting excited to see that they've harvested duck, or if they don't harvest a duck, understanding that you're not going to get every one of them, and then you get to encourage them to do it again when the next group comes in.
Yeah, we're flipping through the pictures now that I took about 4 years ago, I think, when we hunted. The last picture we saw is that's you on the right taking a picture of a young man. I don't remember who it was, but that's about half the blind right there. I have a picture of my son curled up asleep on top of a bag of decoys I didn't include. And there's a picture of you and I think Dakota out picking up deeks after the hunt. And
Yeah, Kent, one of the probably the bonus benefits for our family is there's one thing to talk about serving others, but it's another to get out there and have your sons be engaged in it. So to go out early and to set the decoys, and then to meet the families and walk them down to the blind and get them set up in the blind, and then to cook a meal on a little cook stove in the back and provide them with a meal, and to pray over it with them. And then afterwards to teach them how to harvest. Because it's one thing, the Lord's real specific that, that which we harvest, we have to be good stewards of. So we want to make sure that they understand how to clean the ducks properly, and then how to obviously cook them and then eat them, because duck is really, really good to eat. And for me, it's the bonus of watching my sons over the years having served those families. And that is something that I'll always cherish. And now as we have grandchildren that are starting to get of age to hunt, that'll be the next season of life, is now getting the little grandkids out into the duck blind and enjoying those same experiences with them.
What's your favorite go-to duck recipe?
My favorite recipe that I like is duck gumbo. I really like to make a gumbo and season the duck over a period of about 5 days, and then brown it and cube it, and then mix it in with all the great stuff that you'd have from Louisiana, which is really about anything you can find on the side of the road. You just cut it up, stick it in the old pressure cooker, and let it cook for a day, and it's pretty darn good.
We just changed camera angle. I just lost my train of thought. This is what happens when you're not a professional TV guy. So we had Sandhill Crane last week, and it was astoundingly good. It was rub your belly, high five, darn good meat. I wouldn't have guessed that it was a bird at all. I mean, it was like a steak.
In between steak and pork almost.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And Mark's son Chris had cooked it, and it was fantastic. So, Joe, now you had a dog, and that I think you have retired. You had logged every retrieve that dog made, correct?
Yeah. Ken, I appreciate you mentioning Magnum. So Magnum now is 13, and sadly, I tell you, it makes me my heart hurts. He is in his last season of life, and we're hoping to get him through Christmas of next week. And we've already visited with Dr. Parker a couple of different times, but his back legs are getting to the point that he struggles to get up, and we have to get him up and get him outside. And, it's that time where we have to make a decision as a family. And well, I tell you, he has been a blessing because he's lived in the house. Dakota got him when he was 5. He's been on every duck hunt with Dakota from 5 up through, 18. And, it's that time where you're grateful, you love him. And he was just the best companion and friend. And I'm going to miss him. I'll tell you, I'll miss him. We'll get another lab, and it'll be time to train a puppy, but there'll be nothing like Magnum. And
I think I was there either the day or the day after you got Magnum, and it's just amazing to watch those dogs grow and become such family-oriented pets that are companions and just love to be around you. That's what I love about labs. They just want to be around you the whole time.
Kent, to your point, I think what I cherished most about the duck hunts was watching the kids interact with Magnum, because when he gets in his hay bed, and the majority of them are back there wrestling around, people would say that we are pretty good at understanding when the ducks are coming, but really we're not. All we do is I get the big boy up in the right position. He listens, and when his head turns, there's a group of ducks coming from the right or coming from the left, and then you just get off the call and get quiet, and then they'll usually cut and come right in. But the joy to have a well-trained dog that's whistle trained, that you can sit in the blind and send him out the back, and then watch the kids watch him work as you give him signals and tell him to go over or back or however and hunt him up. And then to have that great finishing dog that brings the duck back into the blind and sits and then lets that young child put their hand out underneath his mouth, and then you tell him release and he drops it in his hand. That was just a blessing and a bonus, and something I'll cherish, and I know my sons have, especially Dakota. And, we'll look forward to whatever that next pup will be. But, man, I'll tell you what, there'll be some tears shed when we have to send Magnum to the big duck blind in the sky.
When Titan died a few years ago, we were on vacation, and we were driving back, and Doug called me himself on a Saturday morning in tears, and tell me that we had kenneled him there, and that was a brutal telephone call to take in Illinois driving back home from vacation, and you miss dogs like that forever. I'm getting choked up, about to cry. Anyway. That's not, memories you don't want to get necessarily, but you want to keep them. But at the same time, those emotions of a dog are just so deep seated. I don't have anything else. You got any questions, Mark?
No, I'm just happy to hear Joe talk about this. It's incredible. Over 300 kids, and I can't imagine being there to watch that for first-time hunters and just them being behind them when they're drinking it all in. It's a beautiful thing. I thank you for doing it, Joe.
So, Joe, I appreciate you being on. Thank you for being a guest. We may have you back sometime. I may come out and do a little video next fall. We'll get you back on as well. Maybe do some video of you training your new dog when you get one, and just out enjoying life and God's creation, because that's what it's all about. And I want to thank you personally for taking such an active role in introducing so many kids to the outdoors and to this sport that we love and have grown up doing. I think you're doing a great job. Thank you for agreeing, and we'll have you back on some other time. You can stay on if you want to, or you can go on and get off the meeting, but we appreciate you very much, Joe. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thanks, Kent. Appreciate the opportunity.
Hang on, there's one other. I want to say, here's my memory of the hunt. That picture of the group. Can we go to that?
I don't have the group.
Nope, you don't have the group. All right. There was a group picture of everybody smiling, holding up ducks, and it was snowing to beat the band in the background. It was just a pretty picture. So anyway, we'll go on down the road. Joe, talk to you sometime. All right. Now we go to
Mr. Mike McDonald.
Go ahead, Mike. You there?
Sorry about that.
There's
Somebody's called
Mike.
my phone.
Hey, Mike, there's a bunch of deer right up behind you looking. Be careful, don't move. There's like 5 big deer. Looks like they're staring at you right behind you. All right, so anyway,
I don't know about big.
well, they look big from here. So,
Come on, Rick, show us your wall.
yeah. So Mike, you're doing duck and goose hunting in Kentucky, and people go, you don't really think about, Elizabethtown as being, in the Mississippi Flyway, but it's like we're on the western edge, I guess, of the Mississippi Flyway. You're on the far eastern edge along the Ohio River, right?
Yes.
So talk about duck hunting over there, and goose hunting for the matter.
Well, we have a lot of Canadian geese that migrate through a little bit more east of us around Shelbyville, but we have another flyway that runs right through Elizabethtown, just a little bit south of here. Not only do we have ducks and geese that migrate through Cecilia, which is south of Elizabethtown, we also have Sandhill Cranes that migrate through here. In Kentucky, we have a draw for Sandhill Cranes. You're allowed to kill 2 or 3 depending on the tag. Some people get 3, some people get 2. I have not personally got any Sandhill Cranes, but I have gotten tags, and it seems like every time I get tags, we don't see them. And when we don't have tags, they're landing in our decoys. So
That's generally how duck and goose hunting goes. A lot of times is they're always in somebody else's field, and you hear a lot of shooting, and they just will not come down where you want them to come down for whatever reason. They just don't want to be there. So what ducks do you get? Same bags we get? Is there a predominant species, or is it, mallards, the bird of choice, pintails and mallards?
well, we don't get a lot of pintails. We get mostly mallards. And occasionally when it gets really cold, we get a lot of redheads. We kill a lot of redheads on the river. Canvasbacks, bluebills, ringnecks. We have killed some pintails around. I personally have only been in a boat one time, and it was a hen pintail. But mostly mallards. We get a lot of wood ducks and a lot of teal. This year, we still have wood ducks around. It's been so warm that wood ducks and teal both are still around this area. I mean, they're very educated. One thing about hunting in big cities, as most people would know, when you're hunting around big cities, they get a lot of pressure. And the more pressure you get with ducks, I mean, they start moving, they'll go nocturnal. And they'll fly out in the dark, and they'll come back and feed in the dark. So it gets tough, but you learn how to adapt and overcome with hunting. And just like early season, you'll use a dozen decoys. And then when it gets later in the season, I mean, I've went out and took 2 decoys, or take 6 decoys and tighten them up. And a lot of people run like great big spreads, and we don't have a lot of, you're not going to have 75 mallards come down. I mean, if you see 10 or 12, you're like, this is a good day. And if you kill 4 or 5, that's a great day. So that's about how Kentucky duck hunting's been, especially the last couple of years. It's been very slow.
So we just saw a picture of a dog in some standing timber. Do you mostly hunt standing timber, or you're hunting pools? What are you doing?
We do have some standing timber. I think that particular picture there was from Stuttgart, Arkansas. We was in the timber, and some good friends of mine that live just outside of there. I think they're in Lone Oak. I think it's Lone Oak is where they're from. And that was his dog. And I'll tell you, when you're hunting in timber, you need a dog. And if you shoot a duck and you knock it down, you better keep shooting at it, because they will get underneath things in that timber, and it is very tough to find them. And if you have a dog, your chances go up to about 85% of finding that duck. One of the first timber hunts I ever had, it was really a great experience to get out there to hunt in Arkansas in the timber. But I just remember that where we were hunting was in Balameda, and you could only take 15 shells in. And the guys were like, be very conservative, save your shells. And I was like, this is easy. I kill ducks all the time. I don't miss. And I'll never forget it. The first volley we had come in, there was probably about 75 birds in it. And I shot 3 times and knocked 3 birds down and didn't find a single one of them. And they were like, you got to keep shooting. And I was like, well, you told me to keep my shells. So, yeah. So I got made fun of the rest of the week.
So when you went to Valmeda, were you a part of the stampede when they released the boats?
Yeah.
Or were you just let everybody else go?
It's entertaining.
Yeah, talk about that a
Race
little
through
bit.
Valmeda.
Talk about the chaos of the launch.
What's that?
Talk about the chaos of when all the boats take off.
Oh, it's crazy. So there's multiple boat ramps, but the way they launch boats down there is you'll have like a double ramp, and it actually launches into a canal. The canal's probably 15 to 20 feet wide, maybe a little wider in some spots. And there's like about a 150-yard chute, and then it takes a really hard right. Well, several years ago, I guess somebody had forgot something, and they was coming back up through the canal, and somebody come around, and they actually hit each other. And I think there may have been a fatality with that. And after that, they slowed the speed down. So it's nothing like it used to be. I think that it's either 5 or 8 miles per hour once you're in the canal. Now, once you get into the timber, I think you can go, most people split up. But the reason everybody's racing is everybody, especially the people from that area, those ducks want to be down in blowdowns. And they'll find big blowdowns where it's open, and they'll get in there and feed. They're in there feeding in that timber because they're looking for acorns. I mean, they're hungry ducks migrating, and that's what they're looking for. So if they find big pockets that are open, and those locals know those pockets, and they want to get in there before anybody else does, and that's why it's just chaos. But it's something that everybody should duck hunted or thought about duck hunting public land in Arkansas, which it has changed. Now there's they have specific dates for public land in Arkansas, and non-residents can only hunt, I don't know, it's like 4 or 5 days a month or something. It's really strange now, but it's still very awesome. And almost every time I've hunted it, we've killed our limit.
I've always been blessed in East Arkansas to have access to private lands, and always some really good duck hunting. There was one duck hunt I had, and I'll plan on having the guide on one of these days, that literally every duck wanted to be in that field, butted up against this flooded timber. And it was just a field, and 20 acres, it wasn't a big field, but there were so many ducks coming in that they were landing on top of each other. And it looks like those pictures and videos you see from the 30s and 40s in East Arkansas. And we just sat there and just let all the birds just land and land and land, and just enjoyed the joy of it. And it was like, okay, let's shoot. And we shot our limit, and the birds came right back. They wanted to be in that field. And that was like Joe was talking about. That's one of those moments you thank God for, because you don't see those very much. And, that's one of those memories I'll always cherish. And I've seen videos of the chaos of Valmeda, and it is, before they tamed it down, it was truly a circus to watch people just take off all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, and see, a lot of people don't realize either, in Valmeda, they have a walk-in area. You can actually park your car. It's just Valmeda, if you could imagine, as like a big campground. There's campgrounds around, so you can camp. But you can park on the side of the road, and you can walk into a lot of those areas. And matter of fact, the last time I was down there a couple years back, me and 2 other guys, we walked in, and we was only in, most of the water was between your ankle and your knee. So I'm talking a foot and a half of water. And The one thing that I've learned about duck hunting is if you have 5 days to hunt, public land, even anywhere, even on like a pond like Joe was hunting, if you can watch that pond for a couple of days, give a couple of days up hunting and scout. Because if you can find that X, you don't need nothing. You don't need decoys, you don't need calls. And that's just one of those great moments where you can just sit there and you just realize we're in the spot. And that's how it was when we walked in. The guy that we hunted with, they have an overlook that looks over the whole entire Biomeda Wildlife Refuge. And for a couple of days, he just went up there and was watching, and he was like, I don't know exactly where those ducks are going down, but I know about where they're going down. And that morning, we probably had at least 7,500. I wouldn't be scared to say 10,000 mallards landing all around us. I mean, it was just incredible to see. And it was kind of weird because those ducks they would hop. So they would all come down, and then they would get up and lift, and they would maybe move 15 feet. And I don't know if they were feeding or what they were doing, but they were just moving all around us. And it was just awesome. Sketchy, because when you walk in like that and everything looks the same, you're like, well, I hope I don't get turned around. And if it's a cloudy day, it could be bad. I think it's 6,600 acres or something. And every single tree looks exactly the same.
There was a guy from up here that walked off into the woods to take care of some extra business and got lost. And he was lost for like 8 or 9 hours. They got a helicopter up looking for him. And he ended up, and you think about it, you're in full camouflage. Everything you have is camouflage. All his camo and everything else was camouflage. How do you spot a guy that's the same color as everything out there? And so he ended up pulling his underwear off and using his underwear as a flag to flag down the helicopter, and that's how they found him. Because you realize the only thing that he had that wasn't camouflage was his underwear. I learned from that, so when I go duck hunting now, I always take an orange flag with me, like a trash bag, because you can use that trash bag as a shelter. You can use it for other stuff, but if nothing else, you can wave this orange thing up and flag the helicopter down that's looking for you. But, he ate a raw duck. He didn't drink any of the water, although he thought about it. But, it's just, you're exactly right. Every tree begins to look exactly like every other tree after you get 20 feet away. And
Mike.
That's what happened to him.
Mike, I've got a question.
At first I thought you was going to say
do you
you
own
like
any
to-
orange
you'd always
underwear?
Wear orange underwear, and I was going to say we just lost half of our viewers.
All right.
Orange underwear. So
Yeah, I actually have a real question for you. So just because I ate some crane meat last week, I got a crane question for you, Mike. What when you're goose hunting and you're out in the fields, are you hunting in the same fields that those cranes will come into, or is it different places they're looking to land, or is one
No,
or the crane looking for more water than a goose, or what? Where are you doing that?
I have seen cranes, especially around Cecilia, which is right around my area. I'm just south of Fort Knox. Well, actually, I'm hunting south of Fort Knox if you was to look at a map, but Cecilia is that main flyway, and a lot of those go to Green River in Kentucky, and some of them go to Barron. There's actually a refuge there. But I have seen Sandhill Cranes, 500 of them in a dry field feeding, and I've seen them in a field that had an inch of water in it and just a pothole maybe out in the field. And the cranes don't need water. I mean, they're just looking for corn. They're just wanting to feed so that they can move and go to where they're going to. But last year, I actually had crane tags last year, and it never really got cold enough to push them down. They were all, well, just to say how they staged, last year I went and filmed Rick in Iowa, and when I was coming back through Brown County, Indiana, which is, I'm going to say central Indiana, there was probably 150,000 cranes, and they were flying treetop high. Indiana don't have a crane season. and they just stay there. And I was like, well, why would they want to leave? It
Sure.
didn't get cold enough to freeze the ground, and they have food. Why go anywhere else? You need cold weather to push all them birds down, and I think that's a big problem. Up in the north, they have so much food. If it doesn't get cold, they don't push down, and that's what everybody's seeing here.
Mhm.
Arkansas, their numbers are down. Kentucky, our numbers are way down, I'm sure, probably over the last 5 years.
Yeah, same thing. You hear about that from the Game and Fish Commission and their bird counts in their surveys. What do you plan on doing to get ready right now? Now, do you have a January duck season, or are you in duck season now?
Our duck season goes to the last weekend of January.
So
So
are you
we'll
doing any
hunt.
scouting now, or what are you doing?
A lot of scouting. I'm actually going to be hunting tomorrow. I'm going to be hunting on the river, which is the Ohio River, actually just a little bit east of Louisville in the morning. Or not tomorrow morning. We're going to go tomorrow afternoon because we're mostly going to scout. But we'll go look for birds and see what's around. Really, my favorite time to hunt is like the last even sometimes 3 weeks. But the last 2 weeks of January, that's always our best. And when it gets cold, we'll get divers. And when you get divers on the river, we've killed scoters, which are a eastern shore duck. We've killed white-winged scoters. We've killed... Did you say something?
Yeah, go on. There was a microphone came on.
Oh. But yeah, we've killed scoters, which are an eastern duck. I think just last week, one of my buddies, I believe he was in Louisville, killed a white-winged scoter. And he had put it on Facebook, and he was like, has anybody ever killed any of these? And I was like, yeah, I actually have one mounted on my wall. It's a female white-winged scoter. And then the same guy, about 5 days before that, actually killed a mandarin duck, which are not even from here. They're like an Asian duck or a South American duck. And a lot of people here will buy them, and they'll buy pairs of them, and they're about $500 or $600 for a pair of them alive. And sometimes they get loose and they'll get in with wood ducks, but I believe he had some wood ducks come in, and that mandarin duck was flying with it. So he's killed two unicorns this year. So his season's probably pretty good. It might be the only 2 ducks he's killed so far, but he's killed 2 rare ducks.
So you're so far east, you're like getting birds from both flyways, and that's pretty interesting.
We last year, I don't think it was last year. It was about 2 years ago. One of our biologists from the Fish and Wildlife, he had put a post out, and they were saying that there were, I don't remember if he said that they were eiders. I think he said they were eiders in a lake about 75 miles east of here. And I guess they got blown in off the East Coast. If we get a lot of eastern bad weather, cold weather, those ducks will push here. And then if we get, west, if you get really strong winds out of the west, it pushes a lot of ducks this way. But we do pretty good. To not be in a major flyway, we do pretty good.
Well, I think the critical thing, like you said, and this is for all hunting and fishing and outdoor sports, that if you figure out where the animals want to be, you've increased your chances of success significantly by just going out and plopping down. We've got a deer blind we built out in the woods, and it's in a place where people see it and go, why did you build it there? And so because this is where the deer are. And they really have a hard time believing it, but the success is in all the check marks that have been put on the wall of the blind. All right, so Mike, I think we're going to wrap up this segment with you. Any final thoughts you want to give us before we go to Rick?
Well, I was just going to say, you had asked him about a recipe for his ducks, and I was just going to give you a quick recipe because Rick White, of all people, don't think ducks are good to eat. I'm going to give him some soon. He just hadn't had ducks that were good. They were cooked properly. But to anybody that's listening, duck is great. And what I do with it is cut the breast into strips, put flour, cornmeal, and taco seasoning, which is all dry, in a bucket. Mix it up real good. Put the duck in. Some people do it in like jalapeno pepper juice and buttermilk, but you can do just an egg wash and just fry those ducks. And believe it or not, one of the best things you can dip that in is horseradish. And a lot of people take ranch dressing and hot sauce, but I learned that from some Cajun guys that like hot stuff. So, but that's an easy duck recipe that I promise you can eat, and it's good with any type of wild game. Pheasants, woodcock. A lot of people say woodcock or livery. I've done it with them, and they're amazing. So just an easy recipe, but that's all I got to say.
Are you pan frying them, or are you deep frying them, or what are you doing?
I'm deep frying them. The guy that showed me actually pan fried them because they was doing it at a campsite, and they just did it like an iron skillet.
Okay, very good. So appreciate that, and look forward to proceeding with you and getting you back on the show in the future. And work on getting some video this year that you can share. That's one thing we haven't gotten a lot of yet, and we need to work on. So be getting some video for us to share of just the beautiful things around you when you get out in the outdoors. So now we're going straight to Rick, who's going to update us on his couple of weeks spent in Indiana trying to find a nice deer. So Rick, what you got?
Well, listen, first let me thank Joe for getting those kids involved in the outdoors. All the years I've been in the hunting industry, that's my number one goal is to get kids brought up in the outdoors. And there's not a better feeling in the world when you're out there with a kid, especially on one of their first hunts. So thank you, Joe. And my wrap up of my hunt in Indiana really is going to be pretty brief. I ate a very expensive Indiana tag sandwich on this hunt. It was not good. It was nothing was moving. We had the weather a little bit, the rifle season, maybe a little bit of pressure, food everywhere. So it was really tough, and I hear this a lot from people, when they watch me on TV or on a video, all they're ever seeing are the successful hunts. But sometimes they don't realize that in order to have 3 or 4 successful hunts, you have to do, 6, 7, 8 hunts. They're not all successful. You like them to be. We were hunting a new place this year. So more than anything, we really kind of got things figured out so that I'm a step ahead for next year. And sometimes that's what we have to do to be successful, is just try to get things figured out. But nevertheless, I was out hunting. There's not a better thing in the world, especially with what's going on nowadays. One of the safest places you can be is in the outdoors. And I got to spend a lot of time with fellow pro staffer John Dallas, and we had a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to doing it next year again.
You have to just look at it as scouting, but I've always felt like a bad day of deer hunting is a better day than cleaning house. I'd rather have a bad day of deer hunting than spend a good day cleaning the house. And, I don't tell my wife I said that because she'll figure it out and make me quit hunting. So anyway, did you see any deer at all?
Yeah, we did. We saw deer. I wouldn't say that we saw a lot of deer. Now, last year, EHD hit that area really bad. So their deer numbers were probably down 50, maybe even more %. So we were up against that on top of everything else. We did see some deer. I did see a couple of really good bucks, just not to where I could get a shot. But they were there. And next year, I'm hoping will be a little bit better.
So what was it that was hit the deer herd CWD, chronic wasting disease?
No, EHD, a hemorrhagic disease that they get from a midge fly.
Okay, right.
It really hit them hard last year, especially in that area.
We have some CWD here and haven't seen any deer at the farm that look like they've had any problems with them at all. There's been they test. You can have every deer tested if you want to, and we just haven't seen any. It's been more over in the east of us, more in north central Arkansas, where the big elk herd is along the Buffalo River. And, it is majestic to go over there and listen to those elk bugle in the mornings and evenings and see them come out in the field and see those big, majestic animals. But that's for another time. We need to do a show on that. Haven't done that, but we need to talk about that. All sorts of ideas come up. So, what are you getting ready to do now, Rick? What's coming up for you?
Well, this time of year, I always take off the week before Christmas. I always spend it home with family. I'm a big Christmas guy. I like the holidays. And so I'm going to be doing that. Now, right after Christmas, I'm planning on running down. I still have a Missouri gun tag. I'm going to go down and hunt for a few days. And then our late season muzzleloader starts, it actually starts next Monday, but I'll wait until after Christmas. And then I'll be out until about January 10th or until I tag out. But I've got those 2 hunts left, and you know what? I'm ready for turkey season at that point. So, but I'll be hunting a little bit yet.
Do you pull a trailer, tent camp? What do you do?
No, I don't pull a trailer. I just get my truck and drive.
Very good. All right, Rick, good to talk to you. We're now going to go to talk about what kind of specials we have coming up.
Why not?
What do you got, Mark?
Why not? Got a great special tonight in honor of all of our guests tonight. I guess we're going to have probably Alpen's historically most popular duck hunting binocular called Wings. Really, really nice, very traditional looking binocular. We call it a double bridge binocular. It's got 2 areas of support on it, but it's a binocular that's been around for a while. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you all about the specs. I'm going to tell you about a great deal we got on this thing. So if you go to the BresserUSA.com site through Alpen Optics, you'll see Wings binoculars, 10 by 42s. It's model number 546, I think it's called. You'll see it on the site for $179. And for On the Hunt viewers, tonight through Sunday, we've got a special on there for half price, 50% off. So $90 for this binocular, which is an outstanding binocular for $200, let alone $100. So that's what's going on, Kent.
So what do they just type in, give them to me for free, or what do they have to put in for the coupon code?
They could do that, but they won't get them.
Well, they won't get them that way, huh?
No. So what you do is go to alpenoptics.com or BresserUSA.com. Go in, and again, you'll see a model 546 Wings binocular. It's going to be listed for $179. Go to the checkout section after you select one of these things, and you're going to see an opportunity to put in a promotional code. And the promotional code is On the Hunt, the name of our show here. So put in On the Hunt, and that'll let you check out at 50 off or $90 or so on this binocular.
So, they're good binoculars. They're waterproof,
Fully waterproof.
fog-proof. They're a dandy product. They carry the Alpen lifetime warranty when you register them within 60 days of purchase. It's a lifetime warranty, and we've owned Alpen for 2 years and a little bit, 2.5 years, and the Alpen warranty, we have people send us in binoculars, and we'll find a pair to match them, and if we don't have them, and do whatever we can to take care of those customers. When we bought the company, we did not have to honor the warranty, but ownership made that decision to continue to honor the lifetime warranty, because it does have a good effect on brand loyalty. And Alpen customers, I have learned, are very, very loyal customers, and we want to keep them that way. So you buy the binoculars, just go to the website, click on registration, register them for warranty within 60 days, and you have earned yourself a lifetime warranty for the Alpen products.
I saw one last week,
Can't
Kent,
beat that.
that had a truck tire mark in it that came back in and said, had a tag on it saying, my binocular doesn't work anymore.
We've got, I need to,
We honored the warranty.
I've got,
We
okay.
did the right thing.
I'm going to see if I can find this. We have one came back that you won't believe, and we have it back there somewhere, I think. I'm not going to say what it is, but I am going to find it, and if we have it, I will show it to you next week, and it is very scary what happened to it, but it is quite a visual, and we sent him a brand new spotting scope. But it was quite an interesting ordeal, and I think y'all will get some gee whiz out of seeing that. So we'll see if we can find that in a spotting scope and bring it back for next week. So I want to thank Joe Falcon and Mike McDonald for joining us today, giving us their valuable time to share with us their passion for the outdoors and for the pursuit of, like Joe said, the gifts God has given us. It's the creation out there, and it's the wildlife, and it's the outdoors. And what better place to go out and get away from COVID than the great outdoors? Hunting is up around the country and in every state. Get out there, buy a hunting license, go be safe in the woods. That's the key. Just get out in the woods, go enjoy it. And for me, it's not about the kill. It's about being out in the woods and seeing what's going on and just enjoying being out there with the people around me. Mark, anything, final thoughts?
I think that's it for me.
All right.
Thanks for watching.
On behalf of Rick White and
Hey,
Mark
next
Strachey,
week,
hey, Mark, or Rick, what you got?
I was just going to say, next week we have Jordan Dean as a guest on the show, and he'll be talking a little bit about what's going on in Missouri. So he's a waterfowl hunter along with a deer hunter and turkey hunter, and maybe we'll get an idea of what's going on down there.
And right before the show, Mark told me that he wasn't going to be here next week, so I got to come up with a sidekick. We might make Tyler or one of the guys in the back come up here, and we got some hunters back in the back that work in shipping and production that would probably, if we can prime free from the Christmas rush, it'll be over hopefully by then Wednesday before, but probably not. So anyway, on behalf of Rick and Mark, I'm Kent Martz. You've been watching On the Hunt with Alpen. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
You know, good optics are a must for a hunter, particularly binoculars, not only during hunting season, but times like this when it's time to start scouting. But there's one thing you need to do when you get your binoculars that a lot of people don't realize. You need to set them up for yourself. Everybody's eyes are a little bit different. And here's how I do it. It's simple and easy. Just take the binoculars and just kind of grab good focus on an object. And I go and put my hand over the left lens. The diopter ring, which is on the right side, I will go ahead and adjust that until that right eye is in focus. Once it is, I take the hand off the other side, both eyes in focus, and you're ready to go. It's simple and easy, and it's a must that you do this before you go out and use them. You know, good optics are a must for a hunter. The new Alpen Tetons. They're lighter, they're better in low light, excellent glass. You'll be hard pressed to find that glass for under $1,000. Everything that you would want in a pair of optics. I know what I'm looking for, and once I know what I'm looking for and find what it is, that's what I'm interested in buying. The bottom line is they're affordable, they're lighter, and they're great in low light. The new Alpen Tetons. Another deer coming out.